James, welcome to the show.
Nice one, boss. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to have you. So, just got to dive straight into it. I've got a question that I like to ask pretty much everyone at the start, because I think it sets a nice tone for the podcast, which is, how has martial arts changed your perspective on the world around you?
Wow, that's a great question. So it is. I feel like when you're involved in martial arts, especially like me, had my first MMA fight when I was 13 years old. So I've kind of like grew up in the game. Do you know what I mean? But what it teaches you is that nothing comes quick and everything is delayed.
Mm,
So when you're out and about and you're doing your thing and you're fucking trying to build your life up and you're doing that, everyone expects everything to happen like now. Do you know what I mean? And they don't put the time into it to get the rewards that they're looking for. As you can see, people now they're looking to lose weight. Everybody's on them skinny pens. Everybody's looking for a quick fix. Do you know what I mean? So I'd say being a lifelong martial artist, it's taught me to you have to put in the work to get to the heights where you want to be. And even when you put in the work, most of the time you're going to fail when you get there. So it is,
mm.
you're not just going to get it. You have to keep doing it and keep doing it. And then eventually everyone looks at you and go, oh, you just did that overnight. Do you know what I mean? It's like, nah, I've been doing this for 10 years, mate, and now is my chance to shine. So I would say that's probably the biggest factor on just like mindset is that nothing comes for free and nothing comes easy and that you have to work for everything that you get.
Yeah, I was talking to, do you know a guy called Dennis Frimpong?
Yeah, I heard of Dennis. Yeah.
Yeah, I had him on the podcast last night. And a part of the conversation that we were talking about is how I brought up about how I feel that I think kids should be taught martial arts in school because there's so many things that it can benefit you from, or benefit you in your later life because you've done martial arts. And one of those things is exactly what you're talking about there, which is delayed gratification. And I think that so many people, and even to an extent myself recently, where you start something and it doesn't quite go to plan straight away, like anything, and then you just give up on it.
Yeah,
And it's so easy to do that. And I think that if people from a younger age had martial arts in their life, it would teach them that yeah, you're going to be shit at something at first, but if you stick with it, you might get a bit better, or you definitely will get a bit better. You might not ever be the best person to have done it, but you're going to get to a certain competency, right?
100%, bro. And I feel like I seen a great one the other day. Is if someone told you that you only have to fail 50 more times to get to where you want to be, how quick would you be willing to fail? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You'd be going into every day. You'd look to fail 50 times today just so you could be successful tomorrow.
Mm.
So I think that's like the main kind of thing. And also is when you know that everything has a delayed gratification, you're more like grounded in yourself and more aware of everything that's going on because you're just waiting to keep chipping away to get to where you want to be. So you're not as quickly to have like impulses to be out in a crowd, just to be impulsive in what everyone else is doing, to do what you everybody thinks is cool. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's like one of the biggest things is like no, when I was younger growing up is that people would have been like no out in the streets and floating around and like you get into arguments with your friends and whatever is where people like young guys growing up they think they're this tough kind of guy and they're going to stick it on people and all this is where when you're training martial arts, you know you are. So you don't have to prove it to anybody because all you're trying to prove is something to yourself to get to where you want to be. So you're not going to take part in any of this bollocks that's going on outside of it because you know that it has no benefit to you for actually being tough and actually being that man that's going to shine in the arena to where you want to be, essentially. Do you know that kind of way? So I feel like that's why teenagers, especially because a lot of guys, if you go out on a night out or whatever, like this here, you see all the guys coming in, sticking their chests out, fucking they hit the weights a couple of times a week in the gym and they think they're the men. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But then you'll see some of those small guy over in the corner who's been training all of his life, just sitting there having a laugh, who'd wipe out the whole floor with everybody. Do you know what I mean? But you'll never see that from him because he knows that that's not what he wants to be involved at. He's got control over his head and he doesn't need to show his ego off to be I'm the coolest guy in here. Do you know what I mean? It's because he knows he is, and I feel like that's what the biggest fact of training martial arts is about. Is because you know that you have to put in that kind of work to get to where you want to be, and it's not just going to come quick. Do you know what I mean? So he already knows he is the man. He doesn't need to show it off to everybody. And I think that's the best thing for teenagers to get into.
Yeah, like when I started martial arts, I started because of the very first martial art I got into was sort of boxing in a way because of the whole Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight.
Mm,
And that was the first time I'd heard of Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. And I was like, oh, what's this? It's kind of like making a big stir, and everyone in school was getting interested in it. And um, and then I started watching loads of Conor McGregor videos on YouTube, and I was like, what is that sport he's doing? That looks cool.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then from there, it sort of carried on, and then I started training, and I started training with this like I was 16, 17, and I was really like wanting to prove a point, you know. And I feel like a lot of young men try and when they are that age, they're like trying to prove who they are through violence and physicality. But then through training, that is actually what has made me lose that ego. And yeah, we
yeah.
all do have an ego to an extent, right? But it's definitely made it a lot calmer. Have you ever had an experience similar to that with martial arts?
100%, bro. Exact same way. It's kind of because it's a bit different for me, though, I feel, than the average kind of teenager because I got signed to Bellator when I was 18 years old. Do you know what I mean? I was in the main card now too in London when I was 18 years old, fighting in Madison Square Garden when I was 20.
Mm.
And so I feel like a little different because of that side of things was taken care of. But back then, when I look back at it, it's like kind of, I was acting like the man that I am today. I
Mm.
wasn't that man. Do you know what I mean? But I thought I was. But now when I look back at it, it's kind of going, and I'm not really like that no more. Everything's a bit more chilled out and stuff, is because I know that I am that guy from then
Yeah.
today. And when you are that guy, you don't need to show it off. You don't need to, because I spent the last 10 years proving that to myself every day in the gym that I say I'm going to do this at that time, I go and do it. I say I'm going to spar these amount of rounds, I probably do one extra.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? Is where back then in them kind of days is like where I was just doing it to be that guy or the guy that I thought it was. And I guess that's kind of it is the same kind of principle, but for me, it's like I wasn't an average 18-year-old. You know what I mean? I was in the arena doing it, so my ego was fed in a different kind of way.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things which I guess we can get into is you sort of burst onto the scene, like you say, at a young age. How do you feel that impacted your career? Do you feel it had a positive impact, a negative impact? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's definitely lots of negatives, but lots of negatives soon turn into positive. Do you know that kind of way? So I wouldn't say that it had like a negative impact in my career because it made me who I am today.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So I'd say bursting onto the scene very young, started getting very financially looked after, had a lot of hype, was in the cameras everywhere, fucking fighting in the biggest arenas all around the world. Do you know what I mean? So I would say maybe it could have caused like a few negative situations just because being so young and having so much on my plate, and it was kind of going like, oh, I've got a dream to do that, and it's like, bang, I've achieved that one, bang, I've achieved that one. I was sitting there, then I'm going like, I'm fast tracking here to achieve everything that I've ever wanted. So then when you're fast tracking that kind of way, and then you actually grow older, you get more experience, life throws its curveballs at you, and you go through a few actual real life situations and not career situations. It makes you take a step back and look at it a bit different. And is in a negative way? No, I don't think it's really. There's been negative situations that has helped me be able to carry these real life situations that I'm a fucking grown ass man. You know what I mean? I can handle stuff a lot better, have a better mindset for it, and it kind of gives you clarity on what you really want. So it is when you're 18 and you're getting fucking six-figure deals thrown at you, you're getting 150 grand a fight, you're getting this a fight, you're getting that a fight, or whatever it is. It's kind of your ego steps in the way then as like a young man going, oh, I'm going to make loads of money off this. I'm going to do this. And then when you kind of get like a bit older, it's like now is where when I get a fight in Dubai, for example, it's like, oh, me and my dad's going to go out there for 3, 4 weeks beforehand. I'm going to have the team there, bring all my boys out. And it's more so like very few people get to do this. Do you know what I mean? This is the moment. This is what I'm grateful for, and this is what it's all about. It's not about what reward I get. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I like to prove myself and put on the best performances that I can, but it's the more so the whole build up to it, spending that time with your teammates, helping them put in their work, they're helping you put in your work, your coaches behind you, and being able to stand at the forefront and go out and show them that all the hard work that they've helped put into, all the teammates that are supporting you, and then the after the end all is like that's really what it's all about. Do you know what I mean? It's about the family affair. You going out to chase your dream on the thing, but it's not about the actual end goal of it all. It's more about the journey and the lead up to that, which is the biggest thing I've got to hold from fighting. I think is them going away in training camps, hitting your team together, bringing your family out, and just spending that quality time with the people that are putting the work back into you and believe in you.
Would you say your priorities have changed as your career's gone on?
Yeah, 100%, bro. 100%. Before it was all about I want to be this world. Obviously, I'm going to be a world champion, and that hasn't changed. But more so, like my approaches and what I want from the sport have become a lot different. So they
Mm.
have, and it's just that's just to do with maturing up. Do you know what I mean? Is where years ago when I was 22, 23, I'd have done anything to get the next highlight video, the next viral video. Do you know what I mean? Is where no, that's not really what it's about for me. As long as I can go out there and do my absolute best, hold my integrity, and lead an example for all the younger teammates coming up behind me.
Yeah, yeah. I think again, sort of just from my own experience, like for context, I feel like I end up saying this on every podcast. So sorry to anyone who listens to every podcast. But um, like when I started, I wanted to be a fighter. Had a couple of low-level kickboxing matches. Very quickly realized that I don't want to be a fighter because like the payoff wasn't worth how much it takes from me. All right. I
Yeah,
quickly realized that. I think I encourage anyone who does think that way or has those inklings to not chase the competition route, you know?
yeah,
Um, but fuck, where was I taking that? Yeah, so I was all about like sort of proving a point and not really worrying about what martial arts can actually provide for me and the people around me. And then I think as I got a little bit, it was probably 2, 3 years in, I was like, actually, like, I think what's important is just enjoying the training, getting some kind of like it's a way of moving my body and keeping fit to where I'm enjoying it because lifting weights can be boring as fuck.
yeah,
And is the community that you get from it. All of my friends pretty much that I've got that are close to me have came through martial arts because of the bond that it creates and chasing something that's difficult, which is something that I think that's again I was talking about this last night is one of the reasons why there's so many young men and even older men that are depressed as fuck. Even if
yeah.
they've got the good job, the good family and everything else, they're not chasing anything difficult because they go to an office 9 to 5 where they do as little as they can to keep their job and they come home and they're like pretty unfulfilled.
Hundred
And
percent.
I think that martial arts is one of those things which you see the fighters and all of that, but there's a whole other side to it, which is the actual lifestyle that it can provide you. And I think that's super underrated or underspoken about and not pushed out enough.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I feel like. You see, there you're on about like people that have their jobs and they're just coming back, and it's like after a while, it doesn't become purposeful for yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's like yeah, you can pay the bills and you can do all that, and that's the life you need. That's necessary. Do you know what I mean? But it's not. You need to have a bigger purpose than that, and and I think it's what the problem comes to that, and it happens with people that are kind of they earn a few hundred grand a year. They're not mega rich, but they're very, very comfortable, can live a nice, luxurious lifestyle compared to most other people, but they're in that in between.
Mhm.
And I feel like most of them kind of guys is, and I've got a few friends who like that who have started training, and that whole side of their life has become so much better just because they've started training because they know that they have to just because they're coasting by they can go in and do their work but now what they're doing is since they're so open-minded and so different creative and how to get better at something that's how they take all aspects of their life. So now when they're going into their job, they're doing their job and they're open minded about it. And then they're going back to their boss and go, listen, if we do it this way or do it that way, we can generate more money. So then everything's going up in each side of their life. And then they become purposeful. Now they're a purpose in this job. Now they're trying to benefit their own skill set in MMA or jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. And they know how difficult it is to get to there. So now they can put that aspect into their own line of work. And I feel like that's what changes for a lot of people. And then once they do that, they can't go back to living like that with just, nah, I'm going to pay the bills. I'm just going to go out at the weekend, see my friends, and I'm comfortable because there's no growth comes in the comfort zone, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really like sort of almost obsessed at the moment with this idea of like taking autonomy and agency over your own life. And I think that that is, as I've been having conversations, I think that's something that I'm realizing is the biggest thing that martial arts has given me is I'm never going to be a world champion, all right? Like I know that I accepted that a long ass time ago, you know, but I can still make a name for myself within martial arts and I can still do something meaningful and purposeful and help people. And that comes through training and that thing that we spoke about right at the start, which is realizing that if you stick with something, you can get better at it. And I'm really obsessed with that idea at the moment. I just want to be able to sort of like voice that and get more people doing it, man, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's, do you know what I noticed these days though with jujitsu? And I think it's especially with like there's so much available online, and when you look online and you go through your reels or whatever, it's everybody's just winning.
Yeah.
Everybody's just submitting everybody, but they're dropping the new cool suplex or fucking. That's every video that you see online, but if you go into a room, like if I go into a when I go into sub zone where I'm training and I go into the mat and there's everyone and there's nearly a black belt level, everyone's got good wrestling, and it's kind of like going, how many of them cool highlight reels do I get in 1 hour session? It's very little, very little, if
Yeah.
even maybe one or twice a week. Then I'm going to hit my best rear neck choke. I'm going to hit my good guillotine, but online, if you go on and if I was recording my training, that's all that I'm going to post.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to go and someone catching me in that. Do you know what I mean? And that's just how social media is. So I think what's happening with a lot of people in jiu-jitsu and MMA is that they're going on and expecting the highlight reel without going in and standing in front of a mirror and practicing a 1-2 for 2 hours.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? And I think it comes back to that delayed gratification where people are aware of it, but they're too caught up in the social media buzz of, oh, this guy has done this in 2 years. But just because it might take him 2 years, it might take you five. But if you go on for six, you might become 10 times better than that. Do you know what I mean? So why are you
yeah.
putting someone else's timeline on how quick they got good into your own shoes? And I've seen it before, people getting black belts, they're getting them in 5 years, getting them in 6 years, whatever it is. It took me, I think, when I was a purple belt, I was submitting black belts, but there were still aspects of my game that wasn't a black belt level.
Mm,
So it took me over 10, 11 years to get it. But now I'm at a stage where I'll go into any room with any black belt and probably beat them. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I
And
think
just because this guy who got it done in 5 years, who got his black belt in 5 years, where's he? He's nowhere to be here. He's nowhere to be seen.
mm,
Do you know that kind of way? So I think you just gotta focus on what you really want for yourself and what your goals is, and go and do whatever it takes to get that, and not get off track by other people's timelines, other people's goals, other people what they have achieved, what they have made, and just really focus on it for you. And I think you'll get a lot better, a lot quicker by doing it like that,
yeah.
and a lot further. So it is, because at the end of the day, it's about the last one who's left. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In this game, so that's where I'm at. It is what who's last standing.
I think that's how you I try and be careful with what I say because, you know, like I'm sure as you've gone through the years of martial arts, you've seen how bitchy people get, and I try not to be the same. Um,
Let
but
them bitch, fella. Let them bitch.
but you do see those black belts that are they're purple belts, you know,
Yeah,
like, and then you take a gi off them and they're a blue belt, and
yeah,
you know, and it's like like you say, I've always so I've been a blue belt 3 years now. And when I first got my blue belt, I don't think, looking back now, I don't think I was actually a blue belt. And then I sort of had this huge plateau where I wasn't training in the correct way and I wasn't getting enough live work in. And then I moved gyms and all of a sudden there was a lot of live work and I was having some white belts giving me some problems. But
Yeah,
being in that environment has now shot me to a level where I'm like, I'm very, very confident going with purple belts, brown belts, you know?
yeah,
And it's like, you have to, if I take the session that we had on Friday night, for example, it was a really hard session where we were starting with people wrapping our necks up and we were having to work out of those positions. And that was the whole session. And then we did rounds at the end of it, you know? And I think that more and more, you might have seen the whole, like, have you heard of like ecological? Like,
yes, yes,
just,
yes, yes. Soft people's jiu-jitsu.
yeah. Yeah.
Is ecological the one where they do all live or where
Yeah.
they don't do very much live?
No, no, it's where everything is live.
Ah, okay, yeah, yeah. Sorry, sorry, sorry. I
Yeah.
missed it.
So
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
so their whole thing is like basically stop being a soft bitch, right? Like
100%, bro. That's how I feel like I've got good at jiu-jitsu. So it is because at the very start when I started training with John Kavanagh back in the day, I was training at my hometown for a while and had like amateur fights and I was climbing up through. But I think the coach at the time might have been a blue belt. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? So they had no access because this is 2000 and when I started training at 13, what was that, 2009 or something like this?
mm,
And then, so by that time, it was I think it was three or four black belts in Ireland, even
mm,
around this stage. So when I got to his gym, it was like, wow, that was the biggest name that I've ever trained with, one of the best coaches in the world, blah, blah, blah. So I would have went there and learned to, and the way his classes were designed is that he would have showed you a technique and then you would have had to start practicing it. Like, well, say if I'm passing guard, it's like, well, I'm going to try and pass in this new technique that I just knew. So you're going to try 20% the first time. Then you're going to go try 30%. Then you're going to go 40%. And then we're going to build it up into a live round. So I would have took them little bits and then would have went home to where I was training with everybody was kind of I was better than. So I would have started in my whole aspect, say if it was guard passes I was focusing. So I would have passed their guard, but rather than taking their back and choking them or submitting them, I would have just let them retain their guard again.
mm,
And I would have passed their guard 10 times in one round. And I feel like that's because now that I've got so many hours in passing guard on their live rounds and pit myself back into that position over and over and over again that I know every way to kind of stop that because I've got so many hours in one position doing live rounds. And I feel like you can know all the techniques and you can know all put my foot here, do this and do that, but the minute that you really put your foot there and someone takes it away from you, what are you going to do?
yeah.
You haven't got the answers for it. Do you know what I mean? Because you're stepped out of the book is step one, step two, step three, but it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you have to go step one to step five, back to step three, to go to four. Did you know what I know that kind of way? And I feel like
Mm,
that people in jiu-jitsu now are getting too soft, and I think it's still a lot with social media where they're coming on, they're seeing this big 10 sequence technique, and it looks cool. They're spinning someone over their head, getting them in an arm bar, doing all this here. It's like, but how many hours have you got even just controlling the arm?
mm.
It's very little. Do you know what I mean? So maybe get good at controlling the arm before you do this big 10 step sequence to get to it. Do you get what I'm saying?
And
Do you know what I mean?
I also think
Because
MMA, sorry, carry on.
no, I'm gonna head to you speak, bro, please.
I think that MMA also massively helps when it comes to jiu-jitsu because a lot of jiu-jitsu guys will happily lay in bad positions. There's obviously the whole self-defense, real life practical side of it where if you lay on the floor, you're gonna get your head pounded in, right? But then there's also the thing of like if I go against a pure jiu-jitsu guy, I'm pretty confident that I will positionally dominate them
Yeah,
because of the MMA training. So you're going to be working harder than me because I know how to pin you and I know how to make you work harder by using my weight and my pressure. So there's that whole side of it as well where like when it comes down to pure jiu-jitsu techniques, I feel like yes, they're great, but if you get someone who's positionally dominant, and you get an MMA guy who's not going to let you get on top of them, and you're going to be trying these things, and they're just going to be holding you, keeping that pressure on you. That's also a whole different side of it as well.
100%. And then, but my, because that's my kind of like theory on it, because I'm a jiu-jitsu guy through and through, mate. That's my thing. But jiu-jitsu doesn't work unless you've got that, unless you got that positional dominance where you can go and smash somebody's head in
Mm.
when you're at bottom, know how to defend yourself, like all this here. Unless you can get comfortable going, I can get on top of this guy, smash him in. If he gets on top of me, I know how to return back to my feet. I know how to protect myself. It gives you the confidence to start going for spinning underneath for arm bars, spinning underneath for omoplatas, shooting triangles, because I know that I can defend myself against that and I can return to my feet. Is where pure jiu-jitsu guys, they're not too worried about going back to their feet, and they're not too worried about getting their head punched in. So that when they do get a wrestler that's been doing jiu-jitsu for 4 months, and now this guy's not even a blue belt level, but he's dominating his brown belt just out of pure dominance of positioning. So I think the aspect of it has to be coming from positional dominance before you're going into submissions. And if we're in a street fight or like a fucking duel back in the day where we're coming out to the last man standing, if I can take your back and chill there for an hour, I'm going to choke you.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? But if I go and try a quick fucking roll and choke where I have to squeeze your head for 5 minutes and you survive it and roll out, then my arms are done. I'm beat. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't have the confidence to control you, dominate you, wear you down, and then strangle you. And I think that's the key that's kind of missing between sport jiu-jitsu, real jiu-jitsu, and MMA. Is where now I feel like the MMA guys are all getting so good at jiu-jitsu, but they also have that dominance in how they smash somebody up. And I
Yeah,
think that's the key difference of high level ADCC competitors is that they can smash your head in if they want it.
yeah, yeah, and like yeah. So I had an experience where I went to Next Gen. Do you know a guy called Chris Price?
Chris Price, the name rings a bell, but I'm not too sure.
Cage Warriors guy. Yeah, he's lightweight.
Yeah, yeah, his name rings a bell, but I'm not too sure off the top of my head.
Um, so I filmed a little bit of content with him, and then we did a jiu-jitsu class. And I was like trying to play some jiu-jitsu underneath, and he just fucking smashed me. Like,
Yeah,
he just like absolutely fucking ran through me because of exactly what we were talking about there, you know? And it was one of the moments where I was like, I never expected to do anything against him anyway, but we had a little we filmed some content prior, and I was like, part of the content was like, call out a submission you're going to hit me with, and then when we roll, like we'll see if you can get it. And he called, I think it was a Peruvian, no, not a Peruvian necktie, a Japanese necktie.
yeah,
So
from half guard top. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah. That's a belter.
he sorry, there. He gets into my half guard. He lets me get half guard, and then he just fucking cranks it on, literally within 20 seconds. And I was like, great.
Yeah, this is how it rolls, isn't it? But that's the thing. It's and now you'll see like MMA fighters that they only have like one or two good submissions, but their dominant and positioning is so good that they can always make the person give them that submission just because of pressure and dominance.
That
And a
was,
lot of the two guys panic underneath that because they're not used to it. So when you're used to having somebody on top of you punching you in the head, and when they're not, and you're just wrestling, you're just rolling, you're not going to budge. You're not going to give them positions no more because you're so used to that pressure of also getting hit that when someone's just giving you a crossface and half guard top, you're going, this is nothing, mate. Because it has that resilience, and you have so many hours of being under that kind of pressure that your resilience builds up, and then you learn not to panic, not to leave your neck out in them positions that you're going to methodically get your way back to your feet or get on top of them.
yeah, I went to Cage Warriors Manchester in November, and I watched a few guys from the Subzone gym compete.
Yeah, yeah,
And one that stood out in particular was the Oliver Tero. Is that how you
yeah,
say his last
Ollie,
name?
yeah, yeah.
And what like everything was so crisp and so perfect and so technically sound. Striking was on point, grappling was on point. I believe he finished on the floor, right?
Was it a decision? Maybe I think
I think he got a finish. I'm not 100% sure.
I
I'm
can't
fair.
remember exactly, but I was at that one as well, but I can't remember exactly. So I can't.
If I
Or did he
remember,
choke him? Did he? He choked him, didn't
yeah,
he? Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He really choked him. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, and it was a few of the other guys on the night as well. And
Shay
just
Ingram and then Jack
yeah,
McLaughlin as well.
and what stood out was just that, like what we're talking about, is just that positional dominance and really understanding the positions so well. And I think that's like the importance of getting a good gym that really, really understands each position to the point where when you go to compete, that you feel just so confident in any position because of the hours and hours of training that you've had.
100%. And that's the thing. And all those guys at Subzone, Cam, the head coach there, man, Cam's a G. So he is one of the best MMA coaches that I've ever trained with.
Mm.
And before you go into like a compete, he will break down your opponent in his most pressured, the positions that he applies the most pressure from, and then find out where he doesn't like pressure being applied, and will literally run you through the best guys in the gyms in them positions and apply the most pressure possible to you and give you all your solutions to the way out. So by the time you come to competition, you're so weathered in the pressure of them positions that your opponent is good at, that it's like second nature just to find your way out because you're so used to it. Do you know what I mean? And I've never really been at a gym where they can break down such large positions and put little micro movements into it to make the whole game so much easier. And that's what Cam specializes in. He's kind of like pitch you into position and gives you like two or three roads to get out. So you hit one road, he blocks it, you hit the next one, then you're back to that one. And it's just like a repeating a cycle over and over again. And the way that he applies it into training makes you, and you can tell, for example, how the boys were performing that night. It's just like second nature. There's no expression on the face. It's go in, run, steamroll through your opponent, stay calm, and find your path to victory rather than going in there and having a fight. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? Because when you're in a fight, your head's going, you're thinking all these things, and is where you don't need to be thinking like that in a fight. You just need to find the path to victory to get your opponent out of there. And I feel like that style of training is, well, I guess you'd kind of call it ecological training or whatever it is they're calling it, that live training, is what prepares you for them positions in fights, and it controls your nervous system so that you're so calm in this that it's looking like on the outside it's looking like you're in a whole scrap, but you're not, because you know exactly what sequence are coming. Block that kick, grab the single leg, take his back, choke him. He's going to stand back down. Well, now let's throw an overhand and do the same thing again by adding in little different aspects of it to complete the puzzle.
Yeah, and like we're talking about here like a real professional top level gym, but like I've been part of lower level gyms where they just fucking wing it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
it's
it is
like,
the way that I look at that though is when you're like in such a high level gym like that, and this is something me and Cam have talked about before, is that when you're so calculated in all those positions and you're so well trained in them, is that you can have a mindset then to wing a little bit because you're so calm and controlled that it allows you the freedom then when you're able to hit all your sequences and have them all nailed down, that you can come and rather than wing it, I like to call it being creative.
yeah.
So it is. So I'm not winging it. I'm just letting my mind and my body and my expressions take over, because I know that I'm so disciplined in all the positions that if I add in my little bit of flair to it, me bit of creativity, that something miraculous could pop off. Do you
Mm.
know what I mean? But I'm not scared to use that and to be creative, because I know how well trained I am in all my opponent's best positions and in all my best positions. That when there's a little bit that's 50-50, I can take a little risk, because I know that the repercussions of taking this risk is going to be very little, because I'm so well trained in every position that it's going to lead me into. And I feel like sometimes as well, it's you have to have like a happy medium, because if you're just winging it, it's no good, because you're going to have chaos in your brain because you're not going to know exactly what you are to do. But then there's other people that are so well like trained as like step one, step two, step three, and that then they get caught up and able to, when they get into an actual fight, they get caught up because they've missed steps one and two. So you need to be well trained in it, have all them aspects in your back pocket, but also know when it's time to bite down on that gum shield and smash on his fucking head. Do you know what I mean? So it's finding that happy medium of where you have all your sequences down to a T. You're used to being in that chaos, being able to stick to your be calm in your own head underneath the fire, but also when you do be calm in your own head and you're in the fire, being like, fuck it, I'm going to just try this, I'm going to do this because I have that confidence in my ability and everything that I've got covered.
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about like you've got your set almost like base of techniques, and then because of that, you've it sounds like you feel like you've got the freedom to then be expressive and creative because if it does go wrong, you can come back to your base.
Exactly, exactly, and that's where the magic happens. I feel in MMA fights is in that moment.
Mm, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Thailand. Where did you train in Thailand?
Went to Thailand and I was training in Bang Tao
Okay.
under George Hickman, Frank Hickman, Brad Riddell,
Mm.
Connor McBride out there, good friend of mine, as well as the boxing coach and James Healing. So yeah, Thailand was quality spot, bro.
Yeah, I've been to Bangtao. I went there March last year. Unbelievable training, and I think like it's the culture there is train, go to the beach, go and chill out, go and train, and just rinse and repeat, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's one of the what I like to do is if the way I would kind of like describe Thailand is best for like a professional athlete is you say if you're like back to back in competition
Mm.
and then you're just going like I need like a little reset, but obviously I can't just go on vacation and put the feet up and relax because then you're going to be out of shape by the time competition comes, and that's not good for this kind of martial arts lifestyle. It's kind of one of the spots after back to back competition and you just want to go have a nice holiday, train, learn, improve in your game, go to the beach, eat good food and relax. There is no better place in the world for it. So there isn't. It's the one of the best facilities that I've trained at and stuff like that. And I just feel like if you're in a little off time, there is no better place to go up and plot up for 6 weeks.
Mm. Do you feel like you wouldn't be able to do a fight camp there then?
I've done fight camps there, so I have.
Okay.
I've done one fight camp there, and it was very, very good. So it is, but the only downside to it is, and where I was looking, I didn't really have that because of how good the coaches are. George, Woody, all the boys out there, they took me under their wing and really specified a fight camp around me, so I wasn't really getting it too much. But the numbers are so big on the mats that when you're having sparring partners, that sometimes when you're 3 weeks out from a fight, you don't really want to be getting some big Eastern European fella coming in trying to break your nose with a flying knee. Do you know what I mean? That's going to cost me a lot of money to get that. Do you know what I mean? If I have to
Yeah.
pull out of a fight because of that, so I would say for new people going there, unless they have the coaches out there the way that I did, that I wouldn't really advise it going for a fight camp as such if you're at a pro level. But if you're at amateur, I think there's no better place in the world to go into a fight camp.
Yeah, there's a when I went, I did I think I did one of the like fighters classes.
Yeah,
The MMA class. That was ridiculous. I can't remember the name of the coach now. Is it Alex Shield?
yeah. Alex,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Alex
Yeah.
is he run the head of the jiu-jitsu program when I was there, but Alex is a beast, bro. He's very good and a good coach as well.
Yeah, and I picked up so many little bits just from the little bit of training I had with him. But there, like you say, the I think the real array of sparring partners. I mean, I sparred this guy who's like, I'm a tallish guy. I'm 6'3", but 6'2", but I tell the ladies I'm 6'3".
Yeah.
And he was like towering over me, you know? And then next thing you know, you're going with a little guy who's way shorter than you, but he's just ridiculous at getting inside quickly. And then, like you mentioned, I went with this big Eastern European guy and he threw one calf kick and I couldn't walk for a day. Like,
Exactly.
so the array of people you get, I think there is very helpful if you're not in a like I said, I don't compete. So for me, it was just the experience was great, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like there's nowhere, especially for like a amateur fighter or someone just going pro, there is no better place in the world to go and get all them looks. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
But now I'm 29 years old. I'm fucking doing this here my whole life. I've seen all them looks. Do you know what I mean? So now I just need to get ready to fight. So it's kind of like a little different that when I'm outside of a fight, there's no better place to go and get all those looks again, get them refreshed in your memory. But when you're coming up to a specific kind of opponent, you know it's kind of like when you're at my kind of level, it's your opponents are going to be your opponents. There's only so many of them that you can face that are on this level. So you have to start dialing in then for your opponent.
Yeah.
Is that when you're a beginning pro or you're just amateur, by the time you get to your fight, you might have five different opponents because that's just how it is. People have jobs, people have stuff coming up, and your opponent might pull out and stuff. But when you're at a higher level, that's usually not going to happen. So it is. So I feel like that's why you have to start knuckling down then for one kind of opponent. But when you're before you get there, there's no better place to go and get that experience. I've been in that cage. They have a full size octagon there. It's people are watching you, and just go in and test the waters.
Sounds like you're really. Do you coach at all?
So I'm a very good coach at when I do, but just now in my career, it's kind of like if someone asked me to teach when I was coaching in Thailand, I taught the jiu-jitsu class out there for a while. So when I get asked to coach, I'll be like, I'll be a teacher, but not a coach
Hmm.
because I'm too busy coaching myself at the minute to get to where I want to be. But I'll go in and teach you the best jiu-jitsu class of all time because in my head, a coach and a teacher is very different.
Yeah.
A teacher will teach you how to get better at fighting, but a coach is much more than that, and that's why I always reference back to Cam at Subzone. Cam is one of the best coaches that I've ever worked with in my entire life. Just for he knows your personality, he knows stuff outside of your fighting life, and helps all get you through all that to help you compete at the best that you can. So to be a coach takes a certain kind of a man, and that's something that I will be in maybe about 10 years time. But for now, I can teach a good class, and I'll be a teacher, but I won't be a coach just yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's quite a. I think Chael Sonnen always talks about how you can't really coach and fight at the same time. It's kind of one
No,
or the other, you know.
100%. But you can teach, and when you teach, it helps you teach yourself how to get better in position. So I'm a big fan of teaching.
Mm.
So but when you're a coach, then you've got 10 people underneath your wing. Do you know what I mean? That all you're thinking about is them. They come first. Do you know what I mean? And that's what all the great coaches, that's what they're like. They put their students and coach relationship first, how they talk to each other, how they deal with problems, how stress is outside of this, is affecting the mat. How can the coach help you get rid of them personal problems so that you can become better on the mats? Is where for now that's where I am. I'm the guy that's the student that who wants to improve to get to the highest level that I can possibly be, and that's going to be a world champion.
Talking more about like coaching then, like did Cam ever compete?
Yeah, yeah. Cam competed his MMA fights and a very high decorated submission wrestling coach or
Mm.
grappler.
Do you think it's important to do that, or do you think that you can have a coach who can coach at a level that Cam can coach at, who doesn't have hasn't had MMA fights and doesn't compete?
No, I don't. I don't think that you need to be that successful in it.
Mm.
Like I don't think all good fighters make good coaches. So I don't. And all good coaches don't make good fighters. And I feel like the best coaches that I have ever came across are the people that have did pretty well, but not fucking exceptional world level.
Mm.
So it is because they understand everything in that mid ground that where everybody gets caught up in. They understand what it takes to compete. They understand the nerves. They understand what it's like to win. They understand what it's like to lose. They understand what it's like to make weight. They understand all the emotions that it is to get in there, and they've felt that pressure. So I think every good coach has to have competed in some shape or form. So I do.
Yeah, yeah, because like I train at a gym, not all the time because it's quite far from me, but it's BST. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I'm not too sure of it now.
Jordan Vucenic trains
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, I know Jordan. He was up at Subzone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jordan's a beast, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
he's yeah. He gave me a nasty about five teeps to the body in a row, and I was like, I need a minute.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But yeah, I go and train there, and they've got sort of like an array of coaches. A guy called Danny Batten, and then they've got a coach called Raymond. I think his last name's Paul, and I don't think he ever competed too much.
No.
Danny won the featherweight Cage Warriors belt, so he's like done quite well for himself back in
Yeah.
the day. But I don't think Raymond ever competed too much. But what I find with Raymond is that he is like super technical,
Mm,
and he really thinks about each position. And similar to what you're talking about with Cam, is like I can ask him loads of little details and he'll be able to give me them for certain. Sometimes you might have had a coach where you go, "Oh, what about this?" And then they have to take a second to think about it because they're not
hmm
100% sure and you don't feel fully confident in the advice they're giving. I find with him and Danny as well, I ask them a question and I know that I'm getting 100%
Yeah.
certainty in what they're telling me.
And that's because they have done the trial and error. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Especially with them, that kind of people back in the day is kind of, well, I feel like a bit weird because I started out training in the old generation. Do you know what I mean? But I'm still so young, and like coming up in it is where all them kind of coaches and they say like Cam and you got like John Kavanagh and stuff who have competed to a pretty decent level, but they've never been fucking on the world stages
Mm.
and stuff like that. And I guess obviously because it was a lot harder to get there, or sorry, I wouldn't say it was a lot harder, but there was a lot like with social media and things nowadays, people can get a little seen more easier.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, but I feel like those kind of guys who have been there, done it, and if you're like a world class athlete, say for example like John Jones, he doesn't really know what the downers are when you don't have success
Mm.
because he's only been successful. Do you know what I mean? And obviously that's a very narrow look to be able to say about an individual. I don't know what he has lost and what he's came through. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's a very disrespectful kind of thing to say. But what I'm trying to say is the people that have competed and they have people like that, they have did it all. They've won, they have lost, they got to a decent level, they have competed at the bottom level. So any things that they have done has been trial and error. It's
Yeah.
been done, they've tested it before. So they're so confident in their ability now to say it and transfer that over. Is where someone who hasn't competed before, I feel like they don't know what. Yeah, that technique might work in the gym, but you have never tried it under pressure. So how can I get better at this? Because we can all find the answers to certain sequences and certain little techniques in that, but what's the best answer for dealing with it under pressure? And for somebody who's looking to rip my head off my shoulders, do you know what I mean? And I feel like
Yeah.
that's coaches can tell you how to apply it and how to deal with the pressures that come along with it.
I had this exact conversation with my mate the other day, who's, for want of a better phrase, a John Jones meat rider. Um, and I was like, I'd rather learn off of someone who hasn't got anywhere near the name of John Jones and maybe has never even fought at like a high level at all than learn from John Jones. Because exactly what you're talking about, not only even just the physical side of it, like he's got such long limbs that technically he doesn't have to be as sound as someone who is shorter and has to work their hand positioning and their movement and their footwork a little bit more because he can get away with it due to his physicality. And also, as you're saying as well, like he's never really. It's difficult, like you said, you don't want to talk about not having hardships or anything, but it comes a lot easier to him than it would to someone who really has to work to figure out each different position, and they've got years of going over different positions and writing down different sequences to the point where they have got an answer for pretty much every situation that can come up because they've had to work for it.
Yeah, 100%. And yet that's why I was kind of going back on that is because how hard it is to be so successful. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? When you look at someone like John Jones, you know what I mean? People only wish that they could do what he has done. So I feel like when you're not, you know what I mean? I'm not fucking 13 no more. I'm not 14. Is where when I was 13 or 14, I'd have probably, yeah, I want to learn off John Jones, the youngest UFC ever, world champion. Like, that's the guy.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? But now when I'm 29 years old and it's like, yeah, I'm going to be a world champion, but I would much rather learn off somebody that has failed it got going to where I want to be because they know how crippling and how difficult it is that when you don't, that they will do everything in their entire ability to pass on that knowledge of what the do's and don'ts are because they know how crippling it is not to be successful. Because where somebody is successful, they don't think about the negative. They're just like, yeah, just go in there and bang, take his head off. It's
Mm.
like, yeah, man, if it was that easy, I would just fucking go and do that, wouldn't I?
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen that clip of there's this Twitch streamer who someone sent him a donation and he read out the donation and they were talking about I think they said like how do you deal with anxiety and depression? And the guy was like, just don't worry about it, mate. Like,
Yeah, don't worry about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, just get over it, you know. It's
yeah.
yeah, it's
And I
kind of
feel like that's how high level athletes, when they're coach people, do you
yeah,
know what I mean? Is where
yeah,
somebody who's not that high. I don't mean at coaching, but is in a competitor level, who has been just on the cuff of that level. They know exactly what it is you need and what you don't need to get to that level because they might have had loads of stuff going on when they were competing and that's why they didn't get to that next level. So they'll teach you not how to have all that and how to deal with all those problems on your way to being a world champion.
yeah, yeah. Okay, couple more things to run by you. I don't want to sit here and take your whole day, but
Plus,
another idea that I've been playing around with and thinking about a lot is, and speaking to other people about as well on the podcast is dream chasing. And another thing which I think that martial arts has given me the confidence to go for something, even if it might not work out. Like
mm-hmm.
if I wanna hit you in the face, so I'm gonna have to leave myself exposed somewhere, and I'm gonna have to take a risk to land that punch, right? And that kind of metaphorically transfers over into life as well, right? Can you talk to me about your relationship with chasing dreams? Because to get to where you've got to, you must have had to take some risks and chase that dream, right?
100%. And it's kind of like it's a dream. The way I look at dreams are just something that I want to do. That's it. And do you know what I mean? I want to be a world champion and I want to be very financially free by becoming a world champion. And if I just dream about that, then I'm going to be just sitting in here looking at the walls all day and eventually I'm going to get fucking anxiety and get depressed. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
what I'd like to do is that if I want to be a world champion, how far away is that from where I'm at right now? And what steps is it that I need to take to get myself a little closer to that? So it is. So if I can get to that position, then the bridge from there to being a world champion is a lot less than it
Yeah.
is from where I am right now. So the only thing that I can do right now in that ability is to go and find out where I'm most weakest at, as if it's in my mind and my vision and my approach to training, my positivity, my mindset, or is it something that I'm technically error at on the mats? So it is. So when you have a dream like that, all you can do is fix the bridges. So it is. So for me right now, all I need to is rack up about 3 or 4 wins, solid wins in my career, and then I'm going to be on the cuff of getting back signed and being on that verge of getting into the top 10 to fight for a world title. So if I'm just sitting here now training to become a world champion, then I'm going to miss all these gaps that I have to fill to get to that stage. To get to that stage because it'll never come because I'm overlooking every obstacle that I've got just to because I'm looking at a world champion. So what you do is you look at the top and then come all the way back down to the bottom
So you kind of like
and
reverse engineer it in a way.
reverse engineer it. And then after that, it's not really like a dream no more. It's just something that I'm on the chase to do because I've closed one bridge. If I don't get over that bridge, well, then we have to rebuild it and get over it again.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So that's how I kind of look at it. And then when you just take ownership of that and owner of your weaknesses, and you just keep working on them, then everything just snowballs effects and just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. And before you know it, you're going to be at the top.
Yeah, I think that's a very sort of mature way to look at going after a goal as well, because you've got a goal, whoever and whatever that goal is, it looks so fucking far away, but in reality, it's just a little step each day, and you're getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and before you know it, you're there. But if you just focus on the goal, you're kind of putting it up on this pedestal, right? And it looks impossible to achieve because you're not thinking of the little actionable steps that you can take.
Exactly. And if it, I can't like take action and just to be a world champion today. Do you know what I mean? But
Mm.
what I can do is I can get a little bit better at slipping a jab and banging a right hook. I can get a little bit better at my double leg takedown. I can get a little bit better at negotiating and promoting myself to market myself to get opportunities to prove myself. Do you know what I mean? So if I can just take control of all them little small things, I'm so focused now on growing and building them bridges to get step by step by step by step is where if I just try to leap to become a world champion, we have to fucking swim across the channel, aren't I? So, but instead, I can build little small bridges that
Mm.
can I just walk straight up to. So that's how I kind of look at it. And then what happens is that you have such small little goals to do each week, each day, that you're so busy and so focused, fixing on them that before you know it, you look back and you're going, "Wow, look at that bridge I've just built." Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really feel like it. It doesn't. I remember when I went and fought Madison Square Garden. It was just like, all right, sweet fight Madison Square Garden. Let's go and do it. But now when I look back at it, it was going, wow, I just fought in St. Pat's Hall in Strabane. But it's 8 years later, 9 years later, I'm fighting in Madison Square Garden. Do you know what I mean? And it was
Mm.
never going like, because some of these opportunities just pop up. But since you're so steadily building your bridge, that you can now just jump on it. Do you know what I mean? Is where you can never say like it wasn't never go. Oh, I want to fight Madison Square Garden. It's like MMA wasn't even legal in New York when I started training. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But since I kept building all them little bridges, building my mindset, building my resilience, building up on my technique to perform under them capabilities of where I want to perform at, that when that opportunity came, I was ready. So you don't get an opportunity and then get ready for it. You be ready to take any opportunity that comes your way. So anything that comes my way, no, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I've built all them bridges. I know what I'm about. I know what it does to take there to get to that point to feel how I need to feel on that night.
And I feel like talking about opportunities, making your own opportunities as well, like is so, so important. I started my Instagram and my podcast and I had like 400 followers. And I've now got 5,000, just over 5,000 followers. But that's because I've showed up for myself every day and I've, like, for example, to get you onto the podcast, like, shot you a follow, you follow me back, I shoot you a
Yeah,
message, right?
yeah,
You gotta try. But
100%.
that's forging your own destiny, you know?
Yeah,
It's
but it
no,
was even like because I remember seeing your videos about it was just on my reels, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, whatever. But then the next week, I'm looking back and I'm like, oh, there is with someone else is doing this, and then the next week, it's like, oh, it's cool they're doing this, and then now I'm like, anytime I see your videos, I'm like, ah, there's that fella back again. Do you know what I mean? Doing this here, but that shows that you're coming across all those bridges. Is where if you hadn't done all them videos and you just messaged me for an interview, I'd probably go, oh, who's this?
yeah,
Do you know what I'm trying to say? So since you've built all them bridges and you were staying consistent in doing all that, that then now it just takes that to get an interview like this.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's the same kind of way that I'm thinking about getting to a world title. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? If I can just keep getting better, keep improving, keep doing stuff to, so that my names is in people's faces, then before you know it, that opportunity is going to come. But you're ready for it because you've been doing it all. You've been, you know what I mean? You've been out doing your interviews. You've been out trying to get that, get that. So when it comes to get the kind of things then that you could only have thought of, that you would have imagined they have 5,000 followers, you couldn't know what I mean when you had 500. It seems so far away. But I bet you look back now and go, fuck, I can't even remember having 500.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's just the snowball effect.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think like that's what I want anyone who I started the podcast to talk about things that aren't just, oh, what do you think about fucking Paddy versus Justin Gaethje this weekend? You know, like, yeah, cool. Like, I'll talk about that sort of stuff, but I want someone to listen to an interview and actually take something valuable that they can then go and apply to their own lives, you know?
100%.
And I think
Because
that's,
people also they just want to. and and the reason why you're doing this for your interviews is because of your mindset, is because every other small little minded person just wants to hear someone else's opinion so that they can gossip about it. But at the end of the day, what the fuck's an opinion? Do you
Mm.
know what I mean? But instead, you've just told me there your tracks and how you've built your Instagram following. I've just told you how I'm building my career to become a world champion. And then now we're in a discussion about how it takes that mindset to get to there, to get to these places, is where a lot of people are not that open minded. And all they want to hear is people's opinions. So they go, he's a prick there for thinking that. I was like,
Yeah,
mate, that's just what he thinks. He hasn't even done nothing. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that's the mindset that you need. You need the one that you have, the one that I have, and you see that vision of just ticking all those boxes and not really giving a fuck about anything else. And what's the cool thing today is because you know that when you do all this, you're going to be that guy someday.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good place for us to finish on. But have you got anything that you want to promote whilst you're on here?
Now I want to just promote myself, mate, in any of the top organizations that are out there that are not scared of getting their whole top 10 roster just absolutely smoked, to give me a shout. I'm ready to go, ready to fight. And anyone in that kind of level, top 10 in the world, is where I'm looking at. So if anybody thinks they're able, come and prove me wrong. But
Uh,
it's a pleasure to be on, brother. Thank you very much for having me. It was a great conversation.
no problem, no problem.